Hello, hello. Welcome back to Let's Talk Ray Bradbury. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please do. I think we've had something like 65 subscribers this month, which is, I believe, our biggest month yet. So it's good to see things picking up, and with your help, we can get to 1,100 subscribers very shortly. So here on Let's Talk Ray Bradbury, we review Ray Bradbury stories. I'm working through a collection of 100 tales. We are just past halfway through this project, and I'm using this time of quarantine during the coronavirus pandemic to knock some of these stories out of the off the list right and left. Today's tale is Bug from 1996. The story is told in the first-person perspective by a narrator who is remembering a former classmate nicknamed Bug for the fact that he was known to break into the jitterbug, which was all the rage in the 30s when they were in high school together. The narrator has this memory of this particular instance right before the graduation, when they were into their last gathering of friends and classmates, when Bug, while the band was playing, rushed out into the aisle alone and danced like a jitterbug without a partner, and he brought the place down, he brought the band down. It was just this very memorable moment from the end of their time together as students. But this is the late 30s. World War II soon breaks out. Everybody goes their separate ways. But a year later, before the war, actually, it would be, right around the time the war began, I guess, he runs into Bug. Bug invites him out for a Coke and a hot dog. He takes him to his house, which is full of trophies. Apparently in the last 365 days, he's been out about 300 of those times, 340 of those times, each night with a different dance partner winning dance trophies. He basically says that when asked, where did you find, who's this wonderful partner? He says, well, actually it's 340 different partners, and none of them are very good dancers, but when they're dancing with me, I sort of transform them. I turn them into superstars with the excellence of my dancing. And the narrator, he doesn't really believe this, but, it was sort of interesting to catch up with this guy who he knew. He considered all of his classmates from school as friends, but they weren't necessarily that close before. The next time they run into each other, a few decades later down the road, Bug has gained weight. He's divorced, he's sold his dancing shoes, he's given away all of his trophies to Goodwill, or he's thrown them away, or maybe some his ex-wife still has, but he's gotten out of the dancing thing. They meet again eventually in the twilight of their life, somewhere in Hollywood. The narrator, he decides that this guy seems like he's down and out. He looks disheveled a little bit, though his tie is still neat, like it always had been. But he takes him to a club. He says, I'll bet you, $20 that you can't do it. You can't take any woman from the crowd and turn her into a dancing sensation like you claim, because really, the narrator has never actually seen him dance with a partner. But he does it. He takes this random woman, turns her into a dancing phenomenon, and the crowd goes wild, the band loves it, and then he picks another person from the audience and does the exact same thing to this woman as well. So the narrator, he leaves his $20 wager on the table, and he walks out while his friend there, Bug, is still dancing, and they never meet again, but he likes to imagine that this day had resulted in Bug maybe meeting somebody, and then sort of in his last days, waking up not with a trophy by his head, but a trophy wife by his head, a new love, somebody else to spend the rest of his life together with. So Ray Bradbury, he died at age 91, I think, in 2012 in LA, where the final scene of this story takes place. So obviously there is some sort of connection. Bradbury did this a lot. He wrote a lot of stories based around England, Scotland, Ireland, because he spent a lot of time in the 50s working there. And obviously he spent a good portion of his life in LA and has many stories based in LA. But I like to think that as an author in the twilight years of his life, writing this story in 1996, I like to think there's a large part of him going into this. Not necessarily the dance connection, but you can sort of see this probably the idea of that, being a writer who gained great acclaim over the decades, probably getting a little bit lost in the shuffle by age 96. The internet's coming around, but you have to research to find out if your favorite author, classic author, is still alive. And it's sort of that, I think, a little bit of that. Do people know that he was still out there, still writing, even to his last days? I like to think that he probably felt a little bit forgotten. His time had passed, but he's probably content with it as well. But it also reminds me of my own experience with high school. It's been maybe 20 years in June since I graduated high school, and many of those people I have not seen since. They've lived life since then. Some of them have teenagers who are going to high school, which is incredible to think. And I still think of many of those classmates, whether they were close friend or not, in context of who they were then. That was the fast runner. That was the good wrestler. That was the good musician. That was the guy who acted out in this way in class and got laughs. This is the guy who got in that fight. I see them as their personalities. Actually, that reminds me, somewhere in my drawer here, I still have it. There's our senior year, some of the art students made this giant sort of collage, and it's had every student in the class in it, but each of them was a caricature based on what the artist believed, or the characters that were most apparent in each classmate, how you were remembered. And at the time, I was perceived as being the Star Wars geek, and I'm actually portrayed as being Darth Maul with a double-bladed lightsaber. I remember that. So it's very much up that alley. There's certain people who I remember in a certain way. And for the context of this story, this guy defines this other guy as being this dancer for his entire life. And he eventually comes full circle, and it would have seemed that maybe that dancer is actually the core of who he was, but in the intervening years, for much of the life, that was not, before he eventually got back to it on that last day. So it's a very interesting exercise in showing how life can go full circle. And in the case of an author like Bradbury, his celebrity sort of comes again now that he's gone, and sort of that's the way the memory is frozen in time and the way it lives on. Me personally, I don't think I've changed that much in the grand scheme of things. I have gotten into this whole video thing. I did spend a decade ultra running, though I was actually a pathetic runner in high school, so maybe that's not really a change. How much have you changed? Have you changed at all in the years since you graduated? However many decades that may be. Yeah, guys, Bug. 1996, 4 or 5 pages, but actually a lot to think about if you're like me, who sort of always thinking back, always thinking of the grand scheme of things, the big picture, how things are perceived. And it's certainly a good story for sort of generating those types of thoughts. So I recommend it. Find yourself a copy somewhere, probably available online. All these stories usually are, and see what you think. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe, as I asked you before, and check out the rest of this playlist, which is growing ever slowly towards 100 videos in it. So until next time, see ya.